So Reform's just had a press conference announcing it's taken a bunch of councillors that have defected from other parties, etc. Now, why does this matter? Well, the makeup of these people politically probably won't surprise neutral political commentators or those who've had questions about the direction that Reform's going in. The answer's pretty obvious, though. It's going to be Tory light, with a slightly more robust view on immigration. Does this actually come as a surprise to anyone? Politically, it is good for Reform that they've had these defectors. It means that they have to put less work into them as they're already in place. It's harder to get candidates in from scratch, and the timing not far out from the local mayor election is great. Sending a clear signal to Labour and Tory alike that they've got members willing to abandon as good political capital, and it's going to concern the uni party a little bit, no doubt. So having it done publicly via press conference is also a smart move to broadcast to everyone that, in a way, Reform really is the best choice for everyone. So, and they even got a smattering of independents moving across, so well done, Nigel, who's a clever boy. Now, what some Reform people might be a bit concerned about is taking more Conservatives in. Whilst there's an overlap in the politics of some Conservatives with the Reform base, there's been a rot in traditional Conservative small c thinking, sort of going back for years now. You only have to look at David Cameron, who not only did a deal with the Liberal Democrats, but showed the public at large that the Tories were starting to come into the centre and on some things lean left. The Reform base does not want or need that. So again, Reform HQ might be doing what they think is, pardon the pun, politically correct, but the core Reform support probably disagree, which leads to a place where you have a third major party potentially that people would vote for, but who they might feel like it's the only choice. To vote for the other two is out of the question. But the party they do end up casting into the ballot box for doesn't totally represent their actual values and ideas, which is an interesting place for us. Some countries have more parties than the UK, and the governments are often coalitions that are uneasy and sometimes unworkable, and holding back sort of progress with stalemates, internal fighting. Something Britain doesn't need. Our own political inertia hampers our every move anyway, and I'm sure people don't want coalitions after the Tory Lib Dem fiasco of the 2010s. Political alliances really should be due to underlying commonalities, not just the politics of getting into power. So for many, having a bunch of people come into Reform is a good thing. It gives more of an advantage numerically, gives extra momentum that's sort of drastically slowed due to the recent internal problems. For others, it heralds a slow decline in the base movement and a march towards the middle ground, to obviously get as many voters regardless of their politics, purely just to get into government. Something that Starmer did to get Labour back into office, embrace more centrist policies and less the radical leftism that is actually a component of the core of Labour members' politics. So are more Conservatives what Reform needs? There may be some who are frustrated by other Tories who may genuinely share with Reform's values who've come across. I mean, there might be some who might see the tide is turning and hop on the Reform train to further their time in politics. So it's a fine line what they're doing, and it'll be interesting, like the line that Farage and Yousef are walking right now. The local elections, I think, will be a gauge of how they've managed it. And just as an aside, I heard that a YouGov poll of Reform supporters had approximately a third wanting new leadership, whilst a third were indifferent, meaning that actually a third approve of Farage as leader. So that was interesting stuff. And I guess we have to ask ourselves, with the way things are going, are we going to end up with parties we don't really truly align with that are a watered down version of our own ideology, but we're forced to vote for anyway? Because it looks that way, doesn't it?